Are you like us? Tired of all the politically correct horseshit on podcasts and in the media? Need a podcast that's funny, smart, and gassy? It's not politically correct. It's just correct. This is the Carolina Underground. Throw that middle finger in the air. Raise them up. Because it's time to get loud, proud, and in your face. Generation X. The best generation of all time meets the grit of the South. It's about everything and nothing at all. From current events to woolly boogers to movies to politics. Loud, brash, funny, and never, and I do mean never, predictable. The Carolina Underground with Mark and Mike.
Yo, 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 it's the Carolina Underground. Welcome back to Season 2, Episode 7, The Parachute's Packed. The money's in there. We're wearing black suits, glasses, and ties, and we're getting ready to jump the hell out of a perfectly good airplane.
Well, now, I don't agree with that at all. I'm wondering who the other yo-yo is. I mean, I know I kind of gotten used to you calling me a yo-yo, but, I mean, there's four yos in there, brother.
Uh-oh. I added an extra one. Normally, I only do 3.
You cheating on me.
We're coming to you live from the replica Bat Cave with Flossie Dog, playing with her toys and eating her food. We're talking about something. I done forgot what we was talking about.
Well, you started talking about Mr. D.B. Cooper.
Oh, D.B. Cooper. Yeah, that's our old rascal.
Well, I mean, again, I don't understand. The first thing right off the bat that I don't understand, and there are many things in this world I don't understand. But the first thing,
know what I don't understand? You go ahead and I'll tell you something I don't understand.
Well, I don't understand why anybody cares who D.B. Cooper was or is or anything like that. My expectation is that the man didn't survive the jump. Now, they say he did. Who cares? I mean, and they found some of the money.
I guess that kind of makes this episode short and sweet.
Well, no, you may have your opinion and mileage may vary, and I'm not sure that it was all that sweet, but
Well, and actually, that you say that's one of the. I think there's several raging public debates about D.B. Cooper and the D.B. Cooper legend, and one of them is, did he survive the jump? And that it's either way that you've got some experienced skydivers saying he would have died, and you've got some that saying that if he knew what he was doing, it was no problem. But for all intents and purposes, from the way the guy acted and the way that it was reported that he acted, it more than likely was that he knew what he was doing.
Well, yeah, and I mean, again, a fella skydived not too terribly long ago from, I want to say, I don't want to call out I'm not that good of a meteorologist. So he went up way, way up high and essentially the edge of space, and had to be in a pressurized suit to be able to, stay alive long enough to make the jump. And
seems
he
like
survived.
I remember that.
Yeah, he survived. Now you tumble.
Now Maverick did that in that new experimental airplane he was flying, and he landed somewhere in BFE, and they thought he was an alien.
Yeah, but again, there's not enough air up that high to stabilize your fall for a long way. But you don't burn up on reentry or anything like that.
Right.
And from what I understand, you tumble uncontrollably.
Well, he didn't have to worry about none of that because he wasn't that far up.
DB, yeah, you're right.
Well, the DB was a mistake from the beginning. That was on the media when they were reporting it because the name he actually gave was Dan.
Okay.
See?
Well,
I know some things.
Well, no, I have no doubt. But again, the thing is, the guy that did the jump from the balloon survived.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, from what I gathered when I heard about that, well, what I remember of it is that, he tumbled uncontrollably until he got in enough um, air, when there was enough air, when the air pressure got to the point where it started doing some resistance. So, I mean, if you could keep your wits about you and, you know, long enough to get to that level. I mean, because again, at the height
Right.
that the jet airliner flies, you do have to use oxygen,
Right.
but you won't be up there for long.
Right.
Gravity is
Well,
not just a good
and one of
idea,
the
it
other
is the
things
law.
too they're talking about is the type of parachutes that he requested kind of lead to the fact that he knew what he was doing, because they were military parachutes and they don't work the same as
Right.
most people that what they go skydiving with. So,
Yeah.
It's just kind of interesting, though. And I'm kind of like you. This story has permeated popular culture in America. I mean, there are movies not just about DB Cooper, but where the concept of going out to find DB Cooper is like the main focus of the movie, or something
Yeah.
that these kids grew up with. For example, there's one movie that comes to mind that says the movie that came out, I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s, Without a Paddle. I mean, that was
Yeah.
when they were kids, that's what they wanted to do, was go find DB Cooper. So they go to the
Right.
wilderness to honor their friend that died, to find DB Cooper. And they find naked women with long armpit hair living up in a tree.
Well, there you go. But, again, I think that the reason that people are so fascinated about it is well, I mean, it's part of our nature of wanting to do, things that are adventuresome and that people normally don't do. I mean, again, that's why people climbed into canoes and paddled, way out into the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
and wound up in, I mean, the Phoenician, or, not the Phoenicians, the Filipinos, the Polynesians. I couldn't think of that to save my ever loving soul. I've probably committed several microaggressions in one sentence.
Kind of like
But,
your hand emojis that you sent me the other day.
well, now, hey, hold on. I can't help it that my fist bump.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't give me a white boy fist bump. It only gave me fist bumps of color.
Well, mine
But
wasn't white. Mine was yellow.
well, that's true too. But but so I mean, again, so that's the first thing. The second thing is we're all intrigued by people who come up with ways to do or come up with tricks. I mean, again, I remember the first time I heard David Pearson in the early days of NASCAR, back when they were still driving those Ford Coupes. He won a race by using he bought a whole spool of copper wire.
Mm-hmm.
And made a fuel line that would hold a gallon of gas, so he was able to keep driving longer than everybody else. He didn't have to pit as often, and and that's one of those things where he wasn't breaking any rules. He just was clever and found a way around them, because the rules said your gas tank could only be a certain size.
Mm-hmm.
But and that kind of thing we all find intriguing, finding a way to beat the system, as it were.
Yeah. Well, and the reason I think that I decided we'd kind of discuss DB Cooper today was recently, and I think
I thought we were going to cuss DB Cooper. Dang it!
Oh well, we can do that too. But I have to fire up to General Lee.
I got you. Go ahead, brother. Sorry, didn't mean to derail.
No, you're fine. It's I think it was either earlier this month or sometime there was an article talking about there was some new evidence that they were coming out to where they thought they may actually be able to bring a conclusion to the case, because there was this one guy and I do not remember his name, but they pretty much thought that he was D.B. Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
He knew a lot about it. He was an experienced skydiver. He had done military skydiving, and they thought it was him. And so they had found DNA on the tie, and they had some other items that they had found DNA on, and they were testing the DNA with the new thing. And the guy that was a suspect actually gave a DNA sample.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing the testing, and I think they actually even made it into a TV show. I'm not sure if it's one of those.
I think
the one with Lawrence Fishburne or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen it yet, but I do know that it came back. That the DNA came back not matching the guy that they thought that it was.
Right.
So, but they do now have a profile. Supposedly the DNA profile of DB Cooper. Now it's just a matter of finding who it is, running it against known databases and stuff like that, and seeing if there's a hit. And odds are this if it's not somebody that's in the database. I mean, this happened in 1971.
Right.
So this is getting to the point to where if the guy's still alive, he's old.
Yeah.
Really old.
No doubt. Yeah. Well, and I mean, again, but we tend to be suckers for this because recently somebody else has found supposedly the plane, Amelia Earhart's plane. Now there have been several, and it's in the water. Now there have been several instances where people have come up with stuff on these islands out there in the middle of the I guess Polynesian island chain or whatever that,
right.
Or is it the Solomon Island chain? I don't know. At any rate, it was
one of them islands out there in that water.
Yeah, out there in the water, out there somewhere near.
Or that woman didn't have no business being in the first place.
Well, that's true, but here, neither hither nor yonder. They've supposed, I remember them finding the wreckage of an aircraft that was similar to the one that she flew on the land. And now this one says they found the same wreckage underwater. And of course, then there's the Flight 19 TBA Avengers. They've found Avengers or a flight of Avengers in the ocean. And they thought it was them, but when they looked at the tail numbers, it wasn't them. And I mean, again, people have been flying stuff and jumping out of planes and stuff for, a couple hundred years. Well, not a couple hundred, for quite a while now.
Right. Well, and I think part of this is, I think by nature, we as humans want an ending to the story.
Oh, absolutely.
And the story does not have the beginning, the middle, and the end. For deep down, that really bothers us.
Oh yeah, yeah. We need closure, and I understand. I mean, shoot, you and I have spent how many hours talking about the Kennedy assassination. And the bottom line is, there's a point beyond which you're never going to know the truth, because the people that knew the truth are dead.
Right.
And that's why they have this stuff classified for 50, 60 years. And like in the case of unidentified flying objects, they just change what they call them so that you can't get the information.
Right.
So, so again, at the end of the day, it goes back to one of the things I say all the time. You know what? You may be right. And I do believe I remember seeing about the guy they thought was DB Cooper. But, I mean, at this age, it's the same kind of thing as, now I don't remember if this was a fictional tale, but I think that there was somebody that said on his deathbed claimed to be Billy the Kid.
Well, there's been several. You had that.
Well, yeah.
That was essentially the premise of one of Young Guns 2.
Right, exactly.
Was Brushy Bill something that came out and claimed to be Billy the Kid? And there's been several people that have claimed to be Billy the Kid. And, we talked about that, what was the movie I was telling you about the other week, Henry, to where you think this is this old farmer, and it turns out that it's actually Billy the Kid that survived Pat Garrett and is up here are up in the living in a farm life, trying to hide and just be normal, and had put away his killing ways, and then they try to figure out who he is, and he has to go kill all them too.
Right, right. Well, and who knows? Again, the only person for sure that knows, or the only individuals, or whatever you want to call it, that know for certain are the gentleman who was D.B. Cooper and Almighty God.
And I don't think he's telling.
He doesn't seem to be, illuminating that particular.
And he may be dead. Nobody knows. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's kind of like the Zodiac. Nobody knows.
And didn't we discuss recently that somebody has come up with new evidence on who Jack the Ripper was?
Yes, we did. There is an article about new evidence on Jack the Ripper, and about something about retesting the walking stick, or the hand-carved walking stick.
Right.
See, and it still goes back to everybody. We're constantly looking for that ending, and if we don't have one and nothing that presents itself, we'll just make one up. It don't matter.
Well, yeah, and I mean, again, but your ears are going to perk up whenever anybody comes. And I mean, quite frankly, to put it in the words of, or not in the words of P.T. Barnum, but in the spirit of P.T. Barnum on being a showman. It's a great way that you can get somebody's attention if you want to sell a book.
Right. A sucker's born every minute. Isn't that what he said?
Right. Oh,
I don't think he quite wanted to say that, though. But
no,
I'm just as bad as anybody, because I'll see that somebody will write a book, and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
For example, that Patricia Cromwell, I think if I'm not mistaken, the book actually changed names, because when I read it the first time, it wasn't named Ripper, it was named something else. And then I think they actually changed it after they updated it or something to the Ripper or something like that. But she's a fiction author, but she's also a nonfiction author, but she also has medical examiner experience and stuff like that. So,
and you know what else? If you plagiarize a book, they'll hire you to be the president of Harvard University.
Well, you can't just do the book. You got to write it. It's got to be a doctoral dissertation.
I understand. I just thought I'd throw that in. Well, so what about Anna Karenina?
Well, and to come to find out, that's not the only one that's being a plagiarist at Harvard.
Nope. That doesn't surprise. I have known a few Harvard graduates, and I have not been.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. I know one person right now that is a student at Harvard, I believe, and he is a fine, upstanding young man.
Okay.
From what I know of him, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of like you. I ain't seen shit from Harvard that has impressed me what little bit ever.
No, I am right there on you. Well, and again, I think what I was thinking about this the other day. Okay, so whatever happened to, the Boy Scout values of, being stalwart and upright and trustworthy, and I know we had this whole thing, and Clint Eastwood was at the top of the list of the anti-hero. Right. But even with the anti-heroes, they always stood for what was right. Now, again, there's a movie here recently, and it's kind of funny, that called The Beekeeper, I think.
Oh, yeah.
That
just come out, I think, didn't it, recently?
Yeah. And I think that's hilarious, because I am a beekeeper, and I wander around. I mean, I've got a shirt from the Beekeepers Association, and I wander around with that. And every time I'm wearing that shirt and I hear that movie, I'm like, well, now I got to explain what kind of beekeeper I am, in addition to what my pronouns are.
Depending on what their view of the movie is, it might be a good idea that you just leave it up their imagination, so they give you a wide berth.
Well, that's kind of my, I don't have to worry too much about getting a wide berth most of the time.
Well, that's because you're crazy.
Well, I know. I don't deny that. ever. That is just not something
Okay,
I
so
ever.
this is.
Go ahead.
I'm going to bring up another topic.
Oh my goodness! I'm shocked.
I don't normally want to discuss this stuff, but
Oh Lord!
this is a little bit different. It, recently the Independent Council came out, and it was in Biden's handling of classified documents.
Yeah.
And they found that there shouldn't be any charges filed or anything like that. Big surprise. I mean, I think what he did was worse than, or just as bad as what Donald Trump did. But that's
no, it was far worse. It was far worse. But
I don't think it. Well, this is the part that I find far worse. I read the excerpts from the report from the Department of Justice, and essentially, what the special investigator has essentially put on the record is that Joe Biden doesn't have the mental acuity to even stand trial.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't have the mental acuity to stand trial, how in blue blazes does anybody think he has the mental capacity to execute the office of president of the United States?
Well, nobody does. I mean, there may be a few holdouts out there at this point, but I mean, the evidence has been on the table since the beginning of the Biden administration that he is not competent to hold office. But be that as it may, it doesn't matter because they put him there. And I mean, again, this is a whole point. If we apply the same standards that were applied to Donald Trump, the man should have been impeached before he could complete his oath of office. And if not then,
well, theoretically, he should have been laughed out of the stage because he's a plagiarist as well. And he dropped him. They caused him to drop out of several presidential campaigns previously.
Well, he was not. I mean, I was watching a clip today of one of the voting integrity hearings in the Senate, and it was a woman that was. I mean, she was very much explaining a situation where they had a ballot that came in and it was damaged, and it was a Republican ballot for Trump, and so they amended it. The machine wouldn't read it, so they amended it so that it was correct in the machine, and as soon as they hit enter, it changed the vote from a straight Republican ticket for Trump to a straight Democrat ticket for Biden, and she brought that up to the supervisor, and there were other people who had seen the same behavior in the voting machines, and instead of anything, and they spoke up as well, and the end result was they called her into the office and basically said, well, you're causing trouble, and if you don't stop causing trouble, then you won't be allowed to work here again. And that's the kind of stuff that's going on.
Well, I would have flipped them off and said, peace.
No, I'm with you. But again, she's trying to do the right thing and do the right thing for the country. But, the point of the matter is we saw this what do they call it? The CIA term for it.
Black Ops.
Nation building, I think they call it. And we saw it in Panama. We saw it in Nicaragua.
We've seen it everywhere.
Yeah, right. And it's the difference is it's now being done in the United States and to the detriment of the American people. Now, that having been said, there's a large number of people that still have their head in the sand and don't believe it. But it
just goes back to the point that the guy proved in federal court that you can hack the voting machines with nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
And as long as you can do that, Don't care what you say. Don't care what any of those voting machine companies say. I don't even
Right.
know the names of them. I know that Fox seems to be aware of them, but Dominion or any of the other ones, as long as it can be hacked with that and that easily, there
Yeah,
is
you can't
no
trust it.
way in hell it should be allowed to be used in any election anywhere in the United States.
Oh no, absolutely no doubt, absolutely no doubt. But again, the greater point is that we are no longer in a position where we can not be involved, at least at a local level. You have to be involved, and you have to be well. I mean, you remember I sent you that. I know I sent you a meme that was showing, and this surprised me, and I did check on the meme, and it's absolutely accurate. That we had more rights when our found under the British monarchy, when our founding fathers said enough is enough, and we paid taxes on fewer things as well. I checked that one out too. Well, there were fewer things to pay taxes on, but anyway, I'm sorry, I'm digressing in
Well, there
my
weren't
sentence.
federal taxes at
Yeah,
that point because the income tax didn't exist.
exactly. And that was enacted as a temporary measure
To pay
to
off war
fund the
debt.
war effort. Yeah, exactly. Now, but the point being that things have gone too far, and the government is out of blood. It is completely out of control. There is no doubt. And it is time that we get some rights back. But again, that was one of them. And of course, I think I sent you a copy of the article about the White House funding the use of artificial intelligence to seek out and censor conservative viewpoints. So, and again, of course, and
I don't
everybody
think it's
should.
necessarily conservative either. I think the
No, it
White
is
House
conservative.
is no. Listen to what I'm saying though. I
Okay.
honestly don't think they're necessarily targeting just conservative. I think they're also targeting anybody that can, or not only can, but does call BS on their crap
Oh yeah.
and all that
Anybody that
other
argues
stuff.
with the
Right.
narrative. Yeah. Yeah. No, and I understand that, and I don't disagree with your statement there. But the point of the matter being that the only way we're going to ever get back to anything that even vaguely approaches sanity is when enough of the population gets angry enough and fed up enough that they're willing to do something about it. And
Well,
I just don't know
I
that
don't
that's ever
know
going
if
to
it's
happen.
angry enough because the other alternative. Well, there's two other alternatives. One of them would make January the 6th look like a Sunday school picnic, which nobody wants.
Yeah.
And the other one is a convention of the states
Hmm.
to actually redress the issues and rein the federal government in.
Well, but therein lies the very problem in the first place, because the point of the matter is the state officials are owned by the federal officials, and the you know county and local officials are most likely owned by the state officials, because all of this stuff is trickle down money, and it's just these folks going in there and lining their pockets and getting rich off of the taxpayer dime. I mean, it's all graft, it's all corruption. When you hear that, oh, this administration has created 80,000 jobs, they created 80,000 government jobs. They didn't create a single job actually feeding the beast. It's all taking away from, siphoning off that taxpayer dollar. I mean,
Right.
but again, it most folks don't want to be bothered as long as they can, watch football and drink beer and, go to their man cave and play with their hobbies, do what, play their Xbox, whatever.
Right.
But I mean, this stuff is, if you don't think that there are nefarious motives behind nearly everything that somebody does. Well, the whole thing about what was it not too terribly long ago, of course, with the whole Epstein thing and Ghislaine Maxwell thing, and they were talking about how all of these folks, they've, just about every dadgum one of them, they've got when by the time that they've been in office for a couple of months, they've got some kind of compromising photo or something that that could be used to implicate them in sex crimes or something like that. Well, and then with the technology that we have today with machine learning and stuff, if you haven't ever taken that course, there's a course in Amazon where they teach you about machine learning and just how easy it is to doctor a photo with that stuff, and it is scary.
Well, even with AI, I mean, they even had to come out and say that, this stuff isn't legitimate. I mean, and then we've had recently that I guess is the FCC or FTC's ruled that those realistic AI phone call generators and stuff that telemarketers and stuff are using, they've ruled them illegal now. You can't use them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we're gonna have to do, as when I say we, I'm talking the royal we, if we want to continue to have our freedoms, and I mean, we're already in a dystopian world, if you ask me. You didn't, but I told you anyway. But if we don't want it to get significantly worse, we're gonna. I mean, okay, so if you look at it at a ocean liner, okay, they don't turn on a dime. Okay, you can't heel that thing over like you can, your Beechcraft.
Right.
Okay. Right. It requires effort. It requires time, and it's not going to be a pleasant process in this case. So, I mean, if you were trying to avoid an iceberg in a modern ocean liner, it would not be a pleasant process. You would be, you'd be hauled over you'd get introduced to one of the bulkheads pretty quick.
Well, you'd probably be
where you were turning. Yeah. Well, I'd hate that, man. That might hurt.
Yeah. You think?
Well, that was the whole reason that was such a punishment, is because the barnacles that grow on the bottom of the ship, right, especially on wooden ships, and they grow pretty quick, and so it's basic. I mean, if you ever walk barefoot across an oyster bed or across the shells on the beach, when you're walking out to the beach, when you get to that patch of seashells, that would be the surface that you would be being dragged across,
right,
when you're being keel hauled. And when you're in ocean water, your body is buoyant, so your body is trying to head to the surface, so it's going to be mashing you up against the bottom of that. And it would not be a pleasant process, not to mention the fact most people couldn't swim real well in those days. So,
well, they didn't need to. That's what the boat was for.
Yeah. Well, you'd kind of probably be pretty convinced that you weren't going to be able to hold your breath long enough to come back. Because again, they're significantly smaller than the vessels we have today, but they weren't small. If you were being dragged across the bottom of one of those things, it'd take a minute.
Yeah. And then, of course, you're lucky if you get brought back on the boat and not getting bit by something else as the blood got in the water and all that good stuff.
Well, that's just absolutely not a pleasant topic at all.
We have hit new soapboxes.
Yep, new soapboxes and new levels of gore.
Well, and it's just, we do try to stay away from politics, generally speaking, because it does anger so many people. We try to talk about the woolly boogers and the stuff like Cooper and all that.
It angers us.
Well, it does, but I don't think it necessarily angers me so much that other people are just so complacent and so apathetic that they don't take an active interest in anything. And it's like they don't want to take the time to actually think for themselves and just research and read.
but we stay too busy as well. And again, our parents and our parents, I mean, our grandparents and their grandparents weren't as constantly busy as we are now. Now, I mean, they worked. They did work. There is no doubt. They worked as hard, if not harder, and it was physical labor, and you worked until you couldn't work anymore. But they also spent time visiting with each other.
Right.
They spent,
and they didn't spend all day with their nose in a screen and social media and all this other stuff.
Right.
They're trying to project the image of a lifestyle that they don't have.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, we have so many distractions now. And again, a lot of these distractions are designed, they are technologically designed to produce a dopamine hit, like cocaine or heroin, to affect the chemicals in your brain. They spent millions, or I think billions of dollars developing the tones that your phone makes to stimulate those regions in your brain with the acoustic levels and the harmonics and everything like that. And I think they got it right, because again,
well, they got a problem of mine, because mine, the ringer's always off. So if you calling, they ain't no use to call, because I ain't gonna hear it ring.
No, I'm with you. But when that silly thing dings, it gets my attention, whether I'm busy or not, and whether I'm going to answer it or not. And I mean, I'm not talking about it ringing. I'm talking about you get the bing tone from "you've got mail" type things to, oh, there's a new post. They all have those are all. So again, now the whole thing was subliminal advertising when the television first came out, and they experimented with this, and it was extremely effective. But they could do subliminal advertising. It was outlawed as a result of it.
Well, actually, it wasn't with the television. The first subliminal advertising was actually at the movie theater to get you to go buy the popcorn and the stuff at the concession stand.
I thought, okay, well, I'll take your word for it.
Seriously, there's a reason why you got popcorn and candy bars and drink cups with straws sticking out of them dancing across the screen in the old movies before the stuff started. I mean, that's just where they made their money at. It wasn't the movie. Still don't make money showing the movie.
Well, that's true.
And it's hard to beat movie theater popcorn. Now, AMC has packaged some, and you can get it at your local Walmart. But I'm going to tell you one thing. It says it's as good as it is at the movie theater, but that's a lie. It's just regular bag popcorn. It don't taste as good as it is at the movie theater. And I was very disappointed. And I probably was borderline traumatized. And I couldn't even bring myself to look at a kernel of popcorn for the next 6 weeks.
Oh, my goodness. I am so sorry to hear that.
It really hurt my heart.
I can tell.
It really did. And you know what? What really amazes me.
What's that?
Is you and I are both well of the age that we're old enough to remember when the village idiot and the president were two different people.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we have lived long enough to see it become the same person.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, but again, going back to when his competence and whatnot for the job, again, this is the thing that utterly fascinates me, is Joe Biden was shown to be incompetent and was knocked out of the he was knocked out from the presidential
till he
race.
Got where?
Wait a minute. By Kamala Harris,
who called him a racist. Yep.
Right. And pointed it out.
Went where?
Yep. No, I'm getting to that point. But the point being, the point being that it was, the Iowa primary was always the first primary.
Right.
And they just skipped right past that, because they worked out a deal to get him on the ballot. And the thing, and it was South Carolina, and it was so I'm not saying that we don't have corrupt politicians in the state house of South Carolina. And I mean, I think in this day and age, you pretty much, by the time you get to the state house, you have been corrupted. Okay. I don't think you can avoid it.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but I think I still have a little bit more faith in the system locally than that.
Well, but I don't see how you can, because at the same time, so just like when I look at the Republicans, why has Mayorkas not been impeached? Why has Gavin Newsom not been impeached? Why has Joe Biden not been impeached? Why?
Well, wait a minute. You also have let's take Gavin Newsom for an example. Hadn't been impeached.
Oh, I'm
tried
sorry.
To recall him, but it failed.
I meant to say Merrick Garland, but yeah, no, I don't. I mean, again, we just talked about the voting machines and the corruption with the voting process. Mm-hmm. I cannot for the life of me believe that anybody is sufficiently delusional that they would have voted for the man that was arresting people for walking on the beach by themselves wearing a face mask.
Well,
during the COVID.
But now, wait a minute. You're also, remember, you're in a deep blue state of California.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I understand that they don't think the same way, but I mean, again, that is utterly delusional.
Now, wait a minute. I understand what you just said, but those words are inaccurate.
Okay, go ahead.
You said they don't think the same way.
They don't think the same way as we do, but I mean, I don't think that they're completely delusional.
I'm not done. The English teacher in me is coming out.
All right, boss, go ahead.
The problem is, excuse me, that they do not think the way that we do. Mm-hmm. The problem is 99% of the time, all the people out there don't think at all.
Well, I'm gonna build on that, because again, there's I don't remember if it's Tibetan or Chinese proverb. Well, I mean, yeah, well, it's actually cross-cultural, so I'm going to use the one that just comes to mind, because I think this one actually may be in Proverbs. But you can't.
You are now going to be intersectional.
I'm going to be intersectional. You can't fill a cup. You can't pour anything into a cup that's already full. So the actual problem is the folks that are too convinced of their correctness and their righteousness to listen to any new information. Okay.
I'll agree with that.
And you know what? It's entirely possible. I mean, again, this goes back to the conversations I have with the flat earth people that I know. I personally believe in a round earth. I personally believe in a globe, because like everything else out there is a globe. But you know what? They may be right. I don't know. I can't say with 100% certitude much of anything. I'm not big enough to reach my arms around the whole globe and touch them on the other side. So I cannot say for certitude.
I can't do it right now, but I am drinking milk.
All right. I'm not sure what that means. You are drinking milk.
We're growing.
So your bones will grow. Oh, got you. Got you. You're a growing boy. Got it. Right. Got it.
Kind of reminds me, I every once in a while will peruse the TikToks.
Yeah.
And, TikTok is an amazing thing. I hate that it's Chinese, that it took the Chinese to invent something that is so genius.
All right.
But there's this guy sitting on a backhoe. You know how big a backhoe is, right?
Yes.
A big one, a full-size one.
Mm-hmm.
And the caption is, "What happens when you teach somebody something at work?" And this little guy comes, and this guy's riding, and he's riding one of them little baby backhoes, like one of them Bobcat things.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, and he yells out, "Who's a big boy?" And that guy says, "I'm a big boy." And he says, "Who's a great big boy?" "I'm a great big boy." That is, I have laughed about that and laughed about that and laughed about that.
Well, now here's my question though. Why is TikTok so amazing when you've got YouTube Shorts and stuff like that? And
Well,
I
I
mean,
will.
Instagram had clips, and
Well, I'll tell you why.
because I'm not a TikTok person, I had
Well, I'm
refused to
not really.
install it. Yeah,
Well, I've got it installed and I do look at it. I don't
yeah,
follow a lot of people or anything like that.
right.
Instagram started out being dog pictures or
Facebook,
pictures, just pictures.
Facebook, Twitter for people that couldn't read.
Well, and it just started out. It wasn't people because it wasn't people trying to live the influencer lifestyle. It was
Right.
you got a lot of like sunsets and you got a lot of places people were at, and you just saw a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Then it got to the influencer thing to where they were trying to pretend that they were living
Yeah.
a lifestyle that they're not.
Right.
And I don't think, and well, Instagram has Threads, which is supposed to mess with or compete with Twitter or X or whatever the hell it is, Truth. I don't know.
Yeah.
Instagram, I understood. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok is just, it puts it all right there and it shows up. I mean, on the For You page, YouTube on the mini shorts and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it just didn't work. I mean, you got to look too hard to find the stuff. And I didn't even know YouTube had mini shorts until you just said that.
Oh no, I get them all the time. And,
Well,
and
I think TikTok kind of sprung out of. There used to be an app called Vine that were just 6-second or 15-second videos, and I think was Vine. I don't know who bought Vine or where it went, but it disappeared. But I think that was the natural progression: is people just doing stupid stuff. And I mean, there are some people on those videos, not just on TikTok. I'm sure now they're cross-platforming them, but they are spitting some serious truth. And people are starting to take notice because it's given people a platform. And while it does, the Chinese has that. I mean, it's a Chinese app. They're going to have access to whatever it is that they want. But they were flying spy balloons over the dabbling country anyway. It's not like they wasn't getting it anyway.
Well, and I'm not 100% certain what in the world they think they're going to do with. If that was anything other than a stunt, I don't know what it was. And of course, it still absolutely burns my bacon that we used an $18,000 missile to shoot down a $10 spy balloon. I mean, it just absolutely boggles my imagination.
Well,
but at any rate, I won't get into that.
That's just cause we're crazy.
Yeah. Well, again, that's the whole thing. And Eisenhower told us before he left, which was before I was born, before he left office, beware the military industrial
complex and the undue influence it has garnered.
Yep, absolutely.
Kennedy tried to stop the military industrial complex. He was assassinated. And nobody seriously has stepped up to stop it since.
No, and of course, and we've talked about the Federal Reserve is the same thing.
I'm interested, actually. I want to see, and I'm not a big fan of Tucker Carlson.
Okay.
I'm just going to throw that out there. I know people worship the quicksand he walks on. Some people do, but I'm not a Tucker Carlson fan. Never have been, never have claimed to be. But I am interested in watching and listening to his interview with Vladimir Putin. And because, I have been listening to and talking back and forth with expatriate Americans.
Putin?
No, well, I mean, we give each other fashion advice.
Okay, well, that's nice.
Yeah. But no, I've been communicating with expatriate Americans that don't live in the United States anymore. They've moved to Russia and places like that. And, we've touched on this before, is our media is so warped that they have people believing that people in these other countries are pretty much living in hovels, that you've got post-World War II Soviet conditions in Russia, to where you may have 2 apples in a grocery store, and it's not like that. It's a farce. And the sooner that we as a country and citizens wake up and realize that the media is nothing but an extension of the government, tries to keep you a tax cow so you can continually have your tits pulled for the money to flow out.
Yep.
We're screwed.
No, you're absolutely right. And again,
wait a minute. It is 8:07 p.m. Friday, February the 9th, ladies and gentlemen. Say that what you just said again.
What did I just say?
That I am absolutely right.
Oh,
I want to record that. Say it again so I can send it to my wife.
I agree with you.
That I'm right.
Well, not that. What you do about your wife, that's a different story. I don't think she is.
Sometimes I'll she's going to. One thing, I'll slap her in the jaw.
Well, I don't think
I won't do it in person because she'll kick my ass. But
I don't think she's going to listen to my opinion about whether you're right or wrong anyway. But be that as it may. Well, no, not necessarily. She don't know me from Adam's house cat, for goodness sake.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, if you're looking for an extra one, you give me like 5 pounds of pinto beans, we'll call it even, and you can have her.
No, that's okay. I don't need an extra one.
Well, the offer's on the table. Anybody out there looking for a good wife, she's got a good personality, good face, I'll take 15 pounds of pinto beans, and I may even throw in I'll even throw in a used iPhone.
Okay. I don't even want to know if you get any responses from that or not.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I forgot to even look and see if we got any email. There was some in there, but one of them they sent me was in Russian, and I'm like, look, dude, I do good to hit record. Yeah. You think I'm going to be able to find out what you're saying when it ain't in English? It ain't going to happen.
Well, Google Translate is pretty
but that means
good.
You got to figure out how to get it out of the email into Google Translate, and I can't say it because it is what it is at this point.
No, I understand.
I'm too old.
Gotcha. Then crotchety.
Oh, I am crotchety. There ain't no doubt about that. And sometimes when I sit silently in my office or here, sometimes I whisper in my britches.
All right. Well, that is a little bit more information that I think I wanted.
That's the snout to the curly tail and everything in between. And we gone.
Have a good evening.
All right, you crazy bunch of motherfuckers. Wait. Can we say mother? Anyway, you've been listening to the Carolina Underground. It isn't politically correct, it's just correct. Our motto is, if you can't go balls deep, don't go at all. Actually, that's not our motto, and I'm sorry, I don't even know what that meant. All right, we gotta go. We hope you enjoyed the show. And if you didn't, we hope it really pissed you off. Follow us on Twitter at Carolina UNDGRND Underground, get it? Or drop us an email at Carolina UNDGRND, get it? At northstate.net. We want to hear from you. Y'all be cool. See you next time on Carolina Underground.